Emily Carter always believed that important moments announced themselves loudly. She thought life-changing events came with arguments, confessions, or dramatic decisions. But the moment that quietly altered her world arrived on a rainy Tuesday evening, hidden inside something small and ordinary, a door left unlocked. The Carter house stood in a peaceful neighborhood outside Portland, surrounded by tall trees that turned golden every fall. From the outside, it looked like a perfect American home. Soft porch lights, trimmed hedges, and a wooden swing Daniel had promised to repaint, but never found time for. Inside, however, silence had slowly replaced warmth. Emily had learned to live with that silence. At 46, Emily carried herself with gentle confidence. She had soft brown hair, she usually tied into a loose bun, and kind eyes that made strangers feel comfortable. She worked part-time at a bookstore downtown, recommending novels to customers and arranging displays with quiet care. Books had always been her safe place. Stories where emotions made sense and endings arrived neatly. Her real life felt less certain. Daniel, her husband of 8 years, was a good man but rarely present. Construction work kept him traveling across Oregon for weeks at a time. When he was home, he was tired, distracted, and often buried in work calls. Their conversations had turned practical: bills, schedules, groceries. They still respected each other, but affection had faded into routine. Emily never complained. She told herself marriage changed over time. Passion belonged to younger couples. Stability mattered more. Still, evenings felt long. That changed slightly when Ryan moved in. Ryan was Daniel's son from his first marriage. Emily had met him only a handful of times before he returned home. After finishing college in Seattle, at 23, he was polite, thoughtful, and far quieter than Emily expected. He thanked her for meals, cleaned up after himself, and spent most of his time upstairs working remotely as a graphic designer. Emily had worried the arrangement might feel awkward. Becoming a stepmother to an adult was unfamiliar territory. She didn't want to overstep or seem distant. So she settled into a careful balance: friendly conversations, respectful space, and small gestures like leaving fresh coffee ready in the mornings. The house felt different with another person living there. Not lively exactly, but alive. Footsteps upstairs replaced empty echoes. Music drifted down hallways. Occasionally, Ryan laughed during online meetings. And the sound surprised Emily each time, reminding her how quiet the house had been before. Over the weeks, they developed an easy rhythm. Short chats in the kitchen, casual jokes about the weather, discussions about movies or books. Nothing personal, nothing deep, just enough to soften loneliness. Emily appreciated his presence more than she admitted to herself. One evening, heavy rain began falling just before sunset. Dark clouds covered the sky, and the steady sound of water against the windows made the house feel smaller, almost cozy. Emily finished folding laundry while listening to soft jazz playing from the living room speakers. Daniel was away again, scheduled to return in 4 days. The house felt especially quiet that night. Carrying a basket of freshly folded clothes, Emily walked upstairs. The hallway light cast a warm glow along the wooden floor. As she approached Ryan's room, she noticed music playing inside, slow acoustic guitar mixed with the rhythm of rain. His door was slightly open. She paused. Normally, she would knock. She always respected privacy. But her hands were full, and she assumed he had stepped out or was downstairs earlier without her noticing. "Ryan?" she called gently. No answer. She nudged the door open with her elbow. The room smelled faintly of coffee and clean laundry. A desk sat near the wall covered with sketches, pencils, and a laptop glowing softly. A lamp near the window lit the space in warm yellow light. Ryan sat in a chair facing the rain-streaked glass, completely absorbed in a sketchbook resting on his knees. He wore headphones, unaware she had entered. His posture looked relaxed but focused, like someone lost in thought. Emily hesitated, suddenly feeling like an intruder. She took one step forward, meaning to quietly place the laundry down and leave. The floor creaked. Ryan turned quickly, pulling off his headphones. Surprise flashed across his face. "I didn't hear you come in," he said, standing up immediately. "Sorry, I forgot to lock the door." Emily felt heat rise to her cheeks. "I'm sorry," she replied quickly. "I thought the room was empty. I didn't mean to interrupt." "It's okay," he said, though his voice carried slight embarrassment. For a moment, neither moved. Rain filled the silence between them. Emily set the laundry basket near the dresser, trying to ignore the strange awareness settling in her chest. She had entered his room before to leave clean sheets or towels, yet this felt different. Maybe it was the music, or the soft lighting, or the way Ryan looked unexpectedly vulnerable sitting there alone. Her eyes drifted toward the sketchbook still open on the chair. She didn't intend to stare. But recognition came instantly. The drawing was of a woman sitting near a window, hair loosely tied, expression thoughtful. The lines were gentle but precise, capturing emotion more than detail. It was her. Emily's breath caught. Ryan noticed where she was looking and quickly closed the sketchbook. "It's nothing," he said, almost too fast. "Just practice." Emily nodded slowly, unsure what to say. Her heart beat louder than it should have. "You're very talented," she managed. "Thanks," he replied, rubbing the back of his neck. "I draw people sometimes. Helps me think." The explanation sounded casual, but tension lingered. In the air, Emily suddenly became aware of the closeness of the room, the soft music still playing, the rain outside isolating them from the world. She stepped back toward the door. "Well, I'll let you get back to work." "Ah," Ryan said quietly. Their eyes met again, and something unspoken passed between them. Curiosity, embarrassment, maybe understanding. Lasted only a second, yet it felt longer. Emily left the room and gently closed the door behind her as she walked downstairs. Her thoughts refused to settle. She told herself it meant nothing. Artists drew people all the time. She just happened to be available as a subject. Still, the care in the drawing stayed in her mind. It hadn't looked like practice. It looked personal. That night, Emily prepared dinner but barely tasted it. The house felt charged with an invisible energy. She heard Ryan moving upstairs, footsteps pacing occasionally, music changing tracks. She wondered if he felt awkward too. Later, she sat on the couch with a book open in her lap, but didn't turn a single page. Instead, she replayed the moment again and again, the surprise in his eyes, the unfinished portrait, the strange warmth she felt when he said her name. She felt guilty for thinking about it so much. Nothing inappropriate had happened. Yet, her emotions refused to follow logic. Pars, Ryan lay awake as well. He stared at the ceiling, frustrated with himself. He hadn't planned for Emily to see the drawing. He told himself it was harmless admiration. She was kind, calm, easy to be around. Drawing her had felt natural, almost comforting during lonely evenings. But now everything felt complicated. The next morning arrived, gray and quiet. Emily woke early, hoping routine would erase the awkwardness. She brewed coffee and stood by the kitchen window watching rain drip from tree branches. Ryan eventually came downstairs. For a brief moment, both hesitated. "Morning," he said. "Good morning," she replied. Their voices sounded normal, but awareness lingered beneath the surface. Kay poured coffee, thanked her, and sat at the table checking his phone. The silence felt heavier than before. Emily realized something had changed, not outwardly, but internally. She noticed small details she had never paid attention to. The way he smiled slightly while reading messages, how tired he looked after working late, how gentle his tone was when speaking. She wondered if he noticed changes in her too. They exchanged polite conversation about the weather and weekend plans, careful and safe. Yet each pause felt filled with things left unsaid. When Ryan returned upstairs, Emily released a breath she didn't realize she had been holding. She told herself to forget the moment. life would return to normal. But deep down, she sensed that normal had already slipped away. A simple mistake, a door left unlocked, had revealed something neither of them expected. Loneliness meeting understanding at exactly the wrong time. And though nothing improper had happened, Emily felt certain of one thing: some moments could not be undone. And this was only the beginning. The days after that quiet evening passed with an unfamiliar tension hanging inside the Carter house. Nothing had changed on the surface. Breakfast still happened at the same time. Dishes were washed, lights turned off before midnight. Yet Emily felt as if she were walking through a story whose ending she did not understand. Every small interaction with Ryan now carried awareness, like both of them were careful not to step too close to something invisible between them. Emily tried to return to routine. She focused on work at the bookstore, recommending novels, and arranging displays, smiling politely at customers. But her thoughts drifted often. She caught herself wondering what Ryan was doing at home, whether he was drawing again, whether he felt embarrassed about the portrait she had seen. She scolded herself for caring. He was her stepson. The boundary was clear, simple, unquestionable. Still, emotions rarely followed rules written by logic. At home, Ryan kept his distance. He stayed upstairs longer than before, his door now always closed. When he came down, conversations were short and safe. Weather, groceries, internet speed, nothing personal. Emily sensed he was protecting both of them, and strangely, that restraint made her feel both relieved and disappointed. One evening, she burned dinner because she was distracted. The smell of smoke filled the kitchen, and Ryan rushed downstairs. "Is everything okay?" he asked, grabbing a towel to wave away the smoke alarm's noise. Emily laughed nervously. "I guess I forgot I was cooking." He smiled, and for a moment the tension softened. They stood side by side, opening windows, laughing at the small disaster. The ease between them returned naturally, as if it had never disappeared. That frightened Emily more than the silence had. Later that night, while eating takeout instead of the ruined meal, they talked longer than intended. Ryan spoke about freelance work, difficult clients, and the uncertainty of building a career online. Emily listened carefully, asking questions that showed genuine interest. He relaxed while speaking, his guarded expression fading. "You actually listen," he said suddenly. Emily looked surprised. "Course I do. Most people wait for their turn to talk," he said quietly. "You don't." The compliment stayed with her long after the conversation ended. It wasn't romantic, yet it touched something deep inside, a part of her that had felt invisible for years. Daniel called later that evening from a job site. The conversation lasted less than 5 minutes. He sounded tired, distracted, promising he would be home soon, but unsure exactly when. After hanging up, Emily stared at the silent phone, realizing how different that conversation felt compared to the easy hours she had just spent talking downstairs. Guilt arrived slowly, settling in her chest like weight. Nothing wrong had happened, she reminded herself. Still, she felt as if she were hiding something she could not name. A storm hit the neighborhood the following week, knocking out electricity across several blocks. Darkness filled the house suddenly, leaving only the sound of rain and distant thunder. Emily lit candles around the kitchen, their soft glow turning familiar spaces into something warmer and more intimate. Ryan came downstairs carrying a flashlight. "Well," he said with a small grin, "guess we're off the grid tonight." Emily laughed, grateful for the lightness in his voice. Without television or internet, they sat at the table with mugs of tea, listening to rain crash against the windows. Conversation came easily, deeper than before. Ryan spoke about feeling lost after college, about friendships that faded and relationships that never lasted. He admitted he often felt unsure about who he was becoming. Emily found herself opening up too. She talked about her earlier years, about loneliness after her first failed relationship before meeting Daniel, about how adulthood sometimes felt like pretending to have answers. Time passed unnoticed. Candlelight softened their expressions, removing age differences and roles, leaving only two people sharing honesty. "You're easy to talk to," Ryan said quietly, almost as if the words surprised him. Emily felt warmth spread through her chest. She looked down at her tea, unsure how to respond. "Thank you," she said softly. The moment lingered. Neither moved, yet something emotional deepened. Not sudden desire, but connection built through understanding. Scared her because it felt meaningful. When the lights finally returned, reality followed with them. The brightness seemed too harsh after the gentle darkness. Both stood at the same time, awkward again, aware that something had shifted during those hours. From that night forward, small shared moments increased. Morning coffee turned into brief conversations. They recommended movies to each other and occasionally watched them together in the living room. Laughter came easily, natural and unplanned. Emily noticed she looked forward to evenings now. That realization frightened her. One afternoon, she caught herself choosing a nicer sweater before coming downstairs, then paused halfway through buttoning. She stared at her reflection, unsettled by her own behavior. She was not trying to impress anyone. At least, that's what she told herself, yet awareness had quietly changed her actions. Ryan noticed changes too. He became more careful. With words, more thoughtful around her. Sometimes stopping himself mid-sentence as if remembering boundaries he refused to cross. Neither spoke about it. The unspoken understanding grew stronger than words. Then Daniel returned home unexpectedly early. His arrival broke the fragile balance instantly. Suitcases rolled across the floor, work boots near the door, his familiar presence filling the house again. Emily hugged him warmly, genuinely happy to see him. Yet part of her felt strangely nervous. Ryan greeted his father casually, but Emily sensed the shift immediately. Conversations became formal again. Jokes disappeared. The easy rhythm between her and Ryan faded under Daniel's watchful presence, even though he said nothing directly. During dinner, Daniel observed quietly while Emily and Ryan exchanged a brief laugh about something small. The moment lasted seconds, yet Emily noticed Daniel's expression tighten slightly. Later that night, Daniel asked casually, "You too? Getting along okay while I was gone?" "Course," Emily answered quickly. "Everything's been normal." The word normal echoed in her mind long after. She lay awake beside Daniel, staring at the ceiling. For the first time, she questioned her own emotions honestly. She had not betrayed her husband physically, but emotionally she had allowed closeness to grow where distance should have remained. The realization hurt. The next evening, Emily stood alone in the kitchen after dinner, watching her reflection in the dark window. She barely recognized the conflicted woman staring back. She missed feeling understood, missed laughter, missed connection, but she also valued her marriage and the life she had built. Footsteps approached behind her. Ryan stopped a few feet away, hands in his pockets. "We should probably go back to normal," he said gently. His voice carried calm acceptance, but also sadness. Emily nodded slowly, unable to meet his eyes at first. "Yes," she whispered, "we should." Silence filled the space between them. No accusations, no dramatic confessions, only mutual understanding. Both recognized the emotional line they had approached and the consequences of crossing it. Further, "I never meant to make things complicated," Ryan added quietly. "You didn't," Emily replied. "Neither of us did." Their eyes met briefly, full of respect and regret. In that moment, the connection between them felt real, yet impossible. Something meaningful that could exist only as a lesson, not a future. The following days were different. Ryan spent more time applying for jobs in other cities. Conversations became polite again, careful and brief. Emily felt a quiet ache, but also relief, knowing distance was necessary. A week later, Ryan received an offer from a design company in Denver. He accepted immediately. The announcement felt both sudden and inevitable. Daniel congratulated him proudly, discussing moving plans and career opportunities. Emily smiled and offered support, hiding the complicated emotions inside her chest. On the morning of his departure, suitcases waited near the door. The house felt strangely empty even before he left. Ryan hugged his father first, then turned to Emily. The hug they shared was respectful and brief, yet filled with unspoken gratitude. "Thank you," he said softly. "For what?" she asked. "It's for making this place feel like home." Her eyes stung slightly, but she smiled. "Take care of yourself." He nodded, then walked out the door. Emily watched from the window as his car disappeared down the quiet street. The house fell silent again, returning to the stillness she once knew so well. Days turned into weeks. Life resumed its familiar rhythm. Yet something inside Emily had changed. She began talking more openly with Daniel, sharing feelings she had kept hidden for years. Slowly, their conversations deepened. They started taking evening walks together, rediscovering small habits they had forgotten. The experience had forced her to confront loneliness she had ignored too long. She realized emotional distance in marriage could be just as dangerous as physical betrayal. Connection required effort, honesty, and presence. Months later, while cleaning upstairs, Emily passed Ryan's old room. Sunlight filled the empty space. On the desk, she found a small sketch tucked inside a notebook Daniel planned to mail to him. It was the unfinished portrait she had seen that night, and